Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are breaking down an absolutely fascinating mid-table Premier League clash between Everton and Sunderland. To really do this justice, we're deploying our elite analyst duo format. So throughout this breakdown, I'll be switching between two distinct analytical lenses to give you the complete picture. First, we'll channel our inner analyst A. That's the hardcore, fast-paced, data-driven, quantitative mind focused heavily on expected goals, efficiency metrics, and statistical anchors. Then we'll flip the switch to analyst B, our passionate pitch-level tactical guru, totally obsessed with spatial overloads, pressing triggers, and structural vulnerabilities. It's the ultimate fusion of numbers and tactics. All right, let's dive right into this.
Just look at the razor-thin margins separating these two sides right now. We've got Everton sitting in 10th place on 49 points with a perfectly flat 0-goal difference. And literally breathing down their necks in 12th place is Sunderland, with 48 points and a -9 goal difference. Form-wise, man, both teams have been wildly inconsistent. Everton recently held Manchester City to a 3-3 draw and absolutely battered Chelsea 3-0, but then they've also completely dropped points to West Ham and Liverpool. Sunderland, meanwhile, managed to grind out a tough 0-0 draw against Manchester United, but then suffered heavy defeats to Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa. It is a true clash of momentum, and trust me, every single point here is massive.
Section 1. The Tactical Clash. Okay, putting on the analyst B hat for a second. On paper, we are looking at identical 4-2-3-1 structures, but the functional application couldn't possibly be more different. Everton is going to use a highly direct system. They're using Beto as an absolute battering ram, a true physical reference point up top. Their primary route to goal totally relies on wide deliveries, winning those crucial second balls, and aggressively exploiting transitions. Sunderland, conversely, really wants to build out from the back. They utilize Enzo Le Fée as their main creative hub, looking to dominate the half spaces and send wide runners to attack the vulnerable zones right behind Everton's advancing fullbacks. It's direct power going head-to-head against patient buildup.
But you know, systems are only as good as the personnel available. And this brings us to a massive, glaring vulnerability for the home side. Jarrad Branthwaite is out with a hamstring injury. From a purely tactical standpoint, this fundamentally breaks Everton's ability to maintain a high defensive ceiling. Branthwaite is the absolute linchpin that allows them to defend so aggressively. Without him, and with Michael Keane likely stepping in alongside James Tarkowski, their capacity to handle a physical, tactical striker, an absolute bulldozer like Sunderland's Brian Brobbey, drops significantly. Plus, Jack Grealish is out with a foot issue, which strips Everton of a high-level ball carrier who usually relieves all that pressure through progressive carries.
Stepping back into our data-driven analyst A persona, we've got to counter with Sunderland's own personnel crisis, because it's definitely not just Everton missing key pieces. Sunderland is without their defensive rock, Daniel Ballard, who is serving a suspension. Romain Mundle is out with a hamstring issue, and Bertrand Traoré is doubtful. But Ballard is the real key here. The data clearly shows that without Ballard, Sunderland's aerial win rate just plummets. When you consider Everton's direct second-ball strategy and their massive threat from set-piece overloads, Ballard's absence is a glaring structural flaw that Everton is statistically primed to exploit.
Section 2. The Vertical Battle.
Taking off the data glasses and bringing Analyst B back to the forefront, we really need to talk about pressing triggers and spatial overloads. The transitional phases are going to be hyper-aggressive today. When Everton pushes their fullbacks high, Sunderland will definitely use their inverted wingers to try and create 2-on-1 spatial overloads in the wide channels. But Everton's central pivot will be actively setting traps. They'll use highly specific pressing triggers, likely targeting Granit Xhaka the exact moment he receives the ball facing his own goal to force high turnovers and immediately unleash Beto. For those watching, keep your eyes glued to the wide channels the moment Everton loses the ball, because that's exactly where the chaos will start.
So the absolutely crucial point defensively for Everton is this exact 1v1 battle. James Tarkowski going up against Brian Brobbey. Like we noted earlier, Branthwaite's absence means Tarkowski lacks his usual highly mobile partner. Brobbey is Sunderland's main guy, leading their lines with 6 goals this season. He thrives on pinning defenders and holding up play. So the big tactical question here is, will Everton be forced to drop into a low block to protect Michael Keane, thereby just inviting Sunderland's pressure? Because if Tarkowski loses this physical duel, Everton's entire defensive structure collapses backward.
Moving up the pitch, the midfield engine room gives us our next major vertical battle. We've got James Garner, Everton's midfield enforcer, against Enzo Le Fée, Sunderland's primary creative hub. Le Fée is easily the statistical standout for chance creation in the Sunderland side. Garner's entire tactical mandate today will be to just disrupt Le Fée's rhythm. He'll be tasked with completely suffocating Le Fée right at the source, applying relentless pressing triggers and trying to deny him the crucial time needed to pick out those wide runners in the half spaces. If Garner dictates the tempo, Sunderland's attack gets completely neutralized. Now, what happens when you combine aggressive pressing triggers with crucial, heavy 1v1 physical battles? Well, you get cards. Flipping back to Analyst A for a quick data perspective on discipline, the model actually projects 3 to 5 total cards for this match. Notice the medium-high risk factors specifically assigned to James Garner and Noah Siddiqui. Siddiqui has to constantly protect against the rapid transitions of Iliman Ndiaye and Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, while Garner is busy chasing Le Fée all over the pitch. Tarkowski is also sitting at a medium risk purely due to the sheer volume of physical duels he's going to face against Brobbey. For our betting enthusiasts tuning in, these matchups absolutely scream tactical fouls.
Section 3. Fantasy and XG Anchors.
Looking purely at the projected expected goals, Sunderland is staring down a pretty massive efficiency problem. The model has Everton sitting at 1.35 xg compared to Sunderland at just 0.95 xg. Over the course of the season, Everton averages 1.3 goals per game from 1.1 xg, showing a slight overperformance. Sunderland, on the other hand, averages 1.1 goals from 0.9 xg. What the data tells us is that despite Sunderland's possession-heavy build-up play, they simply create fewer high-quality chances per game. They suffer a really severe drop-off in final third data, which makes overcoming a resilient Everton side away from home statistically very, very difficult.
Drilling down into the individual goal scorer probabilities, check out the very top of this list. The model gives Beto a massive 31% scoring probability. And why is that? Because he owns the absolute strongest XG share in the entire Everton squad, listed at a 5.4 season XG. Brobbey's obviously Sunderland's primary threat at 24%, especially with that Branthwaite injury we talked about. But definitely don't overlook Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall at 20%. As Everton's top scorer with 8 goals, he is perfectly positioned to attack those second balls, dropping around the edge of the box from Beto's hold-up play.
Now, for those of you playing fantasy football, this is the ultimate debate between two elite statistical anchors. On the Everton side, you've got Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. He operates in literally the most valuable fantasy zone on the pitch, central attacking midfield, and has the hard currency of 8 goals to his name. On the Sunderland side, Enzo Le Fée is the all-around points magnet. He leads all their creative metrics with 6 assists and an underlying 4.5 expected goals. So Dewsbury-Hall offers the blunt force goal-scoring threat, while Le Fée gives you the elite chance creation, progressive carries, and serious set-piece equity.
Section 4. Final Match Probabilities. Bringing it all together, the blended model gives Everton a solid 50% probability of taking all 3 points. This model dynamically factors in market-implied probabilities, team XG profiles, recent form, and of course, home advantage. The draw sits at 27% and a Sunderland away winners trailing at 23%. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that Everton's home advantage, combined with their slightly superior chance creation metrics, gives them the narrow edge, even with their somewhat unstable defensive form recently.
Translating those probabilities into actual scorelines, both our data and tactical analysts agree we're looking at a controlled low to medium scoring affair. Sunderland's defensive shape is solid enough to keep things tight, while Everton's missing personnel might temper their absolute ceiling. The 3 most mathematically likely outcomes are a tight 1-0 Everton win, a 1-1 draw, or a 2-1 Everton victory. Do not expect a wild shootout here, guys. Expect a tense tactical chess match decided by incredibly fine margins.
And that brings us to the ultimate question as we wrap up this explainer. We've seen the data, we've broken down the missing linchpins, and we've heavily analyzed the pressing triggers and spatial overloads. So I leave you with this. When that whistle blows, which side's system will crack first under the relentless Premier League pressure? Will Everton's patched-up backline buckle against Brobbey's physical presence? Or will Sunderland's missing defensive rock allow Beto to just bulldoze his way to 3 points? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer, and keep learning.